We say a river, you'd think of the Grand River, but there's smaller rivers that are, called a creek, right?
Right.
There's no difference.
Philip,
Yeah.
Joan,
Joan.
may she rest in peace.
Yeah.
The guy from Weezer.
Yeah, that's another
Yeah.
one. When you look at these water bodies,
Hey everyone, just want to take a quick break to tell you about an important upcoming event. Ottawa County Community Action Agency, or OCA, has their Walk for Warmth event on Friday, February 20th at 5:30 p.m. at EV Construction in Holland. It's an annual event that raises money to keep the heat on for financially qualifying working families in Ottawa County who have received a utility shutoff notice. 100% of these funds stay in Ottawa County to help your neighbors. This one-time assistance funded by your Walk for Warmth donations helps to bridge this gap for working families in the county and might be just what they need to stay afloat and feel hope for the future. Now, this event is a blast for all ages. In addition to the walk itself, which is a brisk 2 miles, there are activities for kids and a silent auction for adults. You can learn more about the event and how to support OCA at the link in the description. Back to the show. Hey there, Ottawa County, and welcome back to Ottawa Out Loud, the official podcast of Ottawa County. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Scott. I am your host. We have an absolutely fantastic episode for you today that I'm very excited about. We all know that Ottawa County's bodies of water are part of what makes it unique. So we're here to talk a lot about the natural resources that we have in regards to our water and what Ottawa County and some partners are doing to make sure that it's a safe place to live here in Ottawa County. So with me here, 2 out of my 3 guests, we're actually having 3 guests on today. We have Water Resources Commissioner Joe Bush from Ottawa County,
Morning,
and
Scott.
we have Ben Jordan from the Ottawa Conservation District. Real quick, before we get started, I do want to add a little disclaimer that Joe Bush is an elected official. We've had a few elected officials on the show before. At no point in this show are we going to be doing any sort of campaigning for any elected officials anywhere in any position. This is not meant to be anything promotional for Joe, of course, but it's just to talk about what his department does and some of the cool things that we got going on. And specifically, this is not an election year, which hopefully also helps. But enough of that. We're going to get into the segment. Joe, why don't you start and just tell us a little bit about your position, your job, what the Water Resources Department does, all that good stuff.
yeah. Well, Scott, thanks for having me on this great podcast that you guys put together.
Stop.
We're just trying to educate the public on what we are. Sometimes we're not known until we have a flood or a water concern or a water problem. Our number one job is to focus on water and water quality and protecting it. Part of that is we do the soil erosion control for development, building a new house near a water body. When developments come in, you'll see this black fence, usually around this big development. That's called a silt fence. We put silt sacks in, catch basins. That's our soil erosion program, and I can go into detail for all day about that.
I'm sure.
We have jurisdiction over 1,000 county drains in Ottawa, probably the largest in the state of Michigan. As part of infrastructure is drains, and that started way back in the late 1800s.
Wow.
So a lot of these drains that you see today were the Dutch came over and dug ditches back in the mid 1800s.
As they've been known to do.
To about 1940-ish. Even today we still have new drains, but a lot of our infrastructure is quite old, but it's there and it's only so big and so wide and so deep to take the water we have. So we have to have detention ponds around for developments, commercial, industrial, residential. It doesn't really matter what development it is. I got elected in 2012, been here since 2013.
It's a respectable amount of time.
Yeah, we've been here for quite a while.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot. But, for years, there might not have been as much detention that should have been. But our development standards they've changed over the years to protect people downstream from flooding. That's our primary job is flooding, right? That's why we're here to make sure that our streams and drains and rivers are flowing, the ones that we have jurisdiction over. Some of the things we look at when you're the fastest growing county is development, and you got to balance it. You got to protect people downstream. You got to protect their backyards. You got to protect water quality. You got the wetland protection. You got the habitat. There's so many obstacles to balance. Part of that is having a great staff. The other part of that is having great partners around this county. And that's why we have our Conservation District folks here. We got our Outdoor Discovery folks with us because we partner on projects. We can't do it alone.
Right.
It's kind of like putting a Super Bowl team together. a good coach can't have a Super Bowl team without a good team, players.
Yeah.
And the players got to have a good coach. So one thing that we try to do is get as many partners to the table to bring the best team that we have in Ottawa to make it, go very smoothly, because water is probably the most, in my personal opinion, it's the most valuable, non-renewable resource we have in the world is water. And sometimes we take it for granted.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think people know, they don't think about how water supply and quality is managed until there's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
right, and it's your job to think about that before it's a problem. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, you segued me perfectly. Thank you for that. Absolutely. Speaking of bringing partners to the table, we have a partner at our table.
Hello.
Ben Jordan with the Ottawa Conservation District. Tell us a little bit about you and your job, of course, but then also maybe just a real brief synopsis for people who haven't heard of the Conservation District or have maybe heard the name but don't know a lot about what it is.
Yeah. Well, first of all, would you say I'm kind of like a running back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. A good running back at that.
Yeah, like a Jameer Gibbs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only 5'10", so there's kind of a limit to what positions I could do well.
Yeah, us shorties. That's exactly what we have to do.
So my name is Ben Jordan. I'm the acting executive director for the Ottawa Conservation District. I've been at the district for about 10 years. I stepped into the acting executive director role about a month ago. Prior to that, my main role was the watershed programs coordinator. So what that kind of entailed was overseeing all of our various watershed water quality programs. A lot of it had to deal with working with landowners, both residential and agricultural, throughout the county and actually some of the contiguous counties as well. One thing you'll notice about watersheds is that they don't really obey county lines, right? They, the river systems, they obviously extend into other counties as well. Right. So, a lot of my job is just keeping pollution, specifically non-point source pollution, out of those water bodies and improving the water quality in those. So it's a lot of working with those landowners on getting certain conservation practices put in place to prevent that pollution.
Gotcha. Can you define non-point source?
Yeah, good question. Point source pollution is, it's exactly what it sounds like. You can point at it and clearly identify it. So if you see a factory and there's a smokestack or, an outfall pipe or something, that's something that's typically regulated by the state or the EPA.
The glowing green toxic sludge
right,
dumping.
Yep. So that would be what is considered point source pollution, I guess. Non-point source is more like stormwater runoff from fields, parking lots, whatever. It's a lot less easy to identify exactly where it's coming from. Right. A lot of the times there's multiple sources all kind of converging into a single stream or culvert or whatever. So again, it's, the point isn't to point out exactly where it's coming from. It's just to identify that it is coming from somewhere. And there's ways we can control that.
Yeah. So me pouring antifreeze on the ground to see the pretty colors would be non-point source.
And then if it rains,
which I don't do.
Yeah. And then it rains on that parking lot or whatever, and that along with the oils and gases and whatever else might be there.
Do you want to give us some more background on the Conservation District?
Yeah. So, people ask me that all the time. What is a conservation district?
Right.
And it's sort of a tricky answer. It's weird because we are technically a local unit of state government. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. But
I know local units of government, local unit of state government.
Yeah, that's how it's been phrased to me. But we operate as a local unit of government. Every county throughout the state of Michigan has a conservation district or is serviced by one. So when you go into some of the more sparsely populated areas, you might have 2 or 3 counties that are serviced by the same conservation district. And what they look like, though, is very dramatically different district to district. And it all kind of depends on the types of funding they have. So, again, we're local units of government, but we're not really funded like other units of government are. So we don't really get a portion of the tax bill like, county government or state government does. We don't have like a big operating budget. That being said, we do get a little bit of a portion of money from Michigan Department of Agriculture for operational funding. And we're fortunate that we get some operational funding from the county government as well. There are other districts throughout the state that get, have millages, or they might get a portion of funding from their counties. But you get a lot of districts that they might have 1 or 2 people on their staff, like a part-time administrator and maybe somebody that does some fundraising. And then you have districts like ours that have 12 full-time staff, a lot of people that write grants and initiate projects. We have, a pretty decent operating budget and program budget, and we can offer all sorts of different services and programs to people, which is nice.
Yeah, that is really nice. That's awesome that you have that level of support because, I mean, like I said, the water that we have here at the county is so important, and there's so much. But we got the Grand River, we got Lake Macatawa, we've got Lake Michigan. That's awesome. Thank you for giving us that background. So here on Ottawa Out Loud, we ask the tough questions, and sometimes we get a little uncomfortable, and sometimes we have to push our guests to answer these very difficult questions. Joe, we'll start with you. What's your favorite doohickey, gizmo, or perhaps thingamabob?
Now, are we still related to water quality, or are we just talking about water?
General favorite. What? Yeah, in that realm of things. I'll give you my answer to start with. I forgot it, but I have this little stress ball type of thing, but it's a really satisfying. It's from the brand Nido, and it's just a wonderful way to distract my hands while I'm talking, which is why I'm fidgeting a lot under the table because
I was going to say, I think I've seen you in videos with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Loyal watchers, by the way, as you all should be. Do you have anything
You know what mine
gizmo-like?
Mine's probably a shovel. And people are like, why a shovel? Well, I'm intrigued by water and the way water flows and how it flows. And I always carry a shovel in my truck. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are thinking, I sit at my desk and I don't go in the field. I'm in the field a lot, and I use a shovel. Yeah. And more times than not, you'll see me digging in the ditch. Yeah. Ones that are under our jurisdiction, of course.
Of course.
But, whether it's a catch basin, a manhole, a culvert, I'm always removing debris. Yeah. And I always did that to road commission because I used to work at the road commission. And it's just I always had a shovel in my truck.
Okay. Ben, what's your favorite doohickey, gizmo, thingamajig?
We have a project right now, which I think we're going to talk about in a few minutes, the
Absolutely.
monitoring project. And one of the things that we do a lot of research on and monitoring for is, fish populations throughout our lakes and streams. We have
I know where you're going with this.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I know where you're going.
Yeah.
I need one of these, by the way.
Okay.
Well, you'll have to come up with this.
Add it to the wish list.
We purchased a backpack shocking unit, so it almost looks like a Ghostbusters
I was going to say that.
and it's a big backpack that I wear, and I get to hold a 5-foot pole with an electrode on the end of it. And the point is you shock the water, put a little bit of voltage into the water, and it temporarily stuns the fish, causes them to kind of jump from their hidey holes and float up to the top, and it gives us enough time to net them. And then at that point, we can kind of take a look at them, identify what species are there, measure them if we need to, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so.
Man. And we will be demoing that immediately after this. You brought it with
On
you.
tape, are we going to?
Yeah, hey.
It's a little cold outside.
Yeah, shoot. All right, maybe next time. But great answer. That might be doohickey of the year so far.
Well, that definitely outweighs my shovel.
So let's get into a little bit of why you're both here. This water quality monitoring initiative. I'd like to know a little bit more, sort of a synopsis of the project.
Yeah. So and great segue into why a water quality monitoring program should exist or why we need it, because we do have bodies of water, rivers. Preferably creeks, drains. We say a river, you'd think of the Grand River, but there's smaller rivers that are, called a creek, right?
Right.
There's no difference.
Philip.
Yeah.
Joan. May she rest in peace.
Yeah.
The guy from Weezer.
Yeah, that's another one. When you look at these water bodies, when with all seriousness, we needed to put something together with our team of moving forward, and Ottawa County is where we're at. And we do know we have waters of body that are impaired or have issues. Knowing that, we got to figure out, well, how do we monitor it? And how do we come up with a plan to test it, look at it, go take samples, have samples ran? What's in our water? We always assume, and you should never assume, right? You know what that means, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, we won't say that on your podcast.
Make your own assumptions.
Make your own assumptions. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to be behind the 8 ball on this when there's a problem. Yeah. So we want to try to be upfront and
proactive.
We want to be proactive. So Ben and I put this together. It took us about a year. With Outdoor Discovery and some other players that aren't on this particular podcast. Maybe we can get them on later.
Sure.
Hope College is a partner, Grand Valley, Annis Water Institute. There's a whole nother piece of segment we could do on that. Maybe get a trip on their little boat and go around and do water samples sometime.
Podcast on a boat?
That would be,
Hey, now.
that would be great.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, that's the plan that we kind of put together with a lot of we put our playbook together, right?
Yeah.
You got to have a playbook.
Yeah.
What works, what doesn't work, what have people done, what is Eagle tested, what are their samples come back as, and what have they defined as waters of the state that is got issues, right? For water quality. And
Eagle being the Michigan Department of Energy, Great Lakes, and
Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You kind of you're close.
Yeah.
In Ottawa County, we have, like Joe said, we have the main river bodies, Grand River, which everybody knows, and then a lot of sub-watersheds that eventually flow into the Grand River, whether it's Deer Creek, Crockery Creek, Sand, whatever. And then we have some, in the lower half, we have the Macatawa and some sub-watersheds that run into that. What kind of prompted this whole project is we started to realize that a whole lot of those watersheds, we have, I believe, about 36 what are called sub-watersheds that flow into these major bodies in the whole county. And we started to realize that only a small handful of those have what I guess we would consider to be comprehensive monitoring that was done on them. So there's a few watersheds that have their own what are called watershed management plans.
Sure.
And those plans go over, the bodies of water, what they look like, the land use, the current water quality. There's usually a monitoring component of those that tests the water quality. And there was only a handful of those 36 watersheds that had those plans. Some had very old 20-plus year plans that don't really fit the modern standards. And so that was a big question of if we have all these water bodies and there's only a couple that we actually know the current water quality standards, what is in the water in all those other watersheds? And I think one of the things that we've learned through various watershed programs and projects, we have done some monitoring at the district at other watersheds, and we kind of started to, I'm going to go back to those assumptions. We started to realize that basically every watershed we started to look into and test for things like E. coli, test for things like nutrients, phosphorus, nitrogen, there were high levels of those pollutants in those. And so that kind of begged the question, okay, if we're finding that everywhere else, there's probably some in this creek, and there's probably some in that creek, and the next one. And so it really became a question of the gaps of knowledge that we have in so many different watersheds, and how can we utilize funding from the county and these partnerships to kind of fill those gaps.
One of the challenges in Ottawa, because we're still zoned, or probably, I don't want to say, we might be 60-40 now, residential with agriculture. And, one of the bad raps that farmers always seems to get is, it's the farm runoff, and any type of a contaminant or pollutant is always farm related. And that's not necessarily true. But to prove that, right, we could say what we want, but you got to have proof. And with modeling and location and determination, we will go out and try to figure out, all right, is it really coming off the manure spreading or the farm? Or is it coming from a residential home that, we found it where people still have a direct connect from their sewage to the creek. Some people don't realize where their sewage might go sometimes until...
I don't think about it.
Nobody thinks about that.
You're right.
Almost as bad as people take a shower and forget where their water comes from.
Yeah.
Is it coming from a well or is it coming from municipal?
Right.
I mean, people do know that. But sometimes it's just out of sight, out of mind. And as long as you could turn that faucet on or flush your toilet, you don't know where your water is going.
I got enough to worry about.
From.
Yeah.
Well, and that connects back to your question about non-point source pollution. Like the goal of what we're doing, it's not to point fingers at any one particular group. It's to kind of prove like, hey, this is coming from a whole lot of different
areas.
Areas.
Yeah.
And sources. So.
Yeah, and so this is data collection to discover trends, to make connections that can then be used to figure out what we do.
Yep.
Right. Does it mean more education? Does it mean remediating some old infrastructure, or encouraging people to do X, Y, or Z? Yep. What is the scope of this project? Because it sounds like we're doing a lot of monitoring, right?
Yeah. So, again, going back to the 36 sub watersheds that we have and the gaps in knowledge that I kind of mentioned, each watershed is slightly different. The gaps in knowledge in those watersheds are different. So we were very careful to look at, what is the existing monitoring data that we have? What do each of these watersheds need in terms of new data, updates to data, or watershed plans? So, in terms of the deliverables, I guess you could call them, what we're hoping to get done in the next 5 years, it's different kind of watershed to watershed. And it also depends on the designated use of that watershed. So there's some like warm body fisheries that we have where we're not really necessarily as concerned about fish monitoring or macroinvertebrate monitoring, and we want to look more at human health and different uses, and we might look at E. coli and nutrients in those watersheds, whereas some Spring Lake Norris Creek is a good example. That's a cold water trout stream. So we also want to know what type of macroinvertebrates are in there and fish. So to answer the question, it's kind of different watershed by watershed, but the goal is it was kind of a catch-all. We want to look at nutrients, E. coli, we want to look at chlorides, we want to look at dissolved oxygen and temperature fluctuations, the flow and the level fluctuations, and then obviously fish macros. All the
I think one of the things we wanted to make sure is, number one, we don't point fingers because we don't know. One thing, people make assumptions and assume that it's coming from a particular source when it could be totally wrong. When you collect data and you get the science behind it, you can make good decisions. And one of the things that we're hoping to do with all the information that we are going to collect is, it's a 5-year monitoring plan. We're on year 2.
Yeah.
So we got some time yet. But I think there's going to be opportunities to apply for grants or even gain more partnerships on this. And now, grants, you have to read the fine print.
Right, we want to be careful with
You got to
that.
be careful with grants. So we don't apply for everything and take everything for grants or take it for granted.
Heyo.
But yeah, no pun intended.
Yes.
But we want to make sure that, we can bring money back to Ottawa County if we find an impaired, body of water that has really got its challenges. There's always people applying for grants all over the state. And one thing we want to do is leverage that to bring those tax dollars, no matter who we are, we're all paying for those grants.
Right.
Try to leverage them to come back to Ottawa the best we can with the resources that we have.
And I think to piggyback off what he just said too, in terms of leveraging this data, that's going to be really, really pivotal. Every grant that we apply for over the next few years, we're going to have sets of data that make, our proposals more competitive. It's going to make the case better for why we need that funding. So it really is going to give us a leg up over, unfortunate to our competition. It's going to give us a leg up over them.
I'm kind of a gear nerd. My trade is obviously photo and videography, and I love the microphones, and I got all these cameras set up and everything. What kind of equipment are we using to do this monitoring? I'm a little interested in that.
Yeah, so again, it depends on what we're doing in each watershed. I mentioned the backpack shockers, so that's great for collecting fish sampling data. A lot of it is just handheld sort of equipment and nets and other things. So a lot of the collection we're doing, if we want to look at concentrations of nutrients or E. coli, we're literally just getting down into the stream with a pair of waders and some bottles of water. We're going to collect the samples in a certain way with a certain methodology, and then we're going to take that to the lab to get it analyzed. So it's pretty low tech on that side of things. But then on the high tech side of things, we have the backpack shockers. We have what are called stream sondes, stream samplers that can essentially take continuous real-time data to look at things like the water temperature, dissolved oxygen content. Dan will be able to explain further, what they're doing down in the Macatawa as far as the buoy and some of the sondes they have. So it ranges really between the high and the low tech.
So what it sounds like, and I meant to ask this question earlier, but I think we kind of pieced it together with some context. The Conservation District's role in this is to actually be a big portion of the boots on the ground actually collecting, whereas the Ottawa County Water Resources Department is more sort of setting the direction for what we're doing, or do I have that?
We kind of put I want to say with the help of our partners, put the playbook together.
Yes.
And we don't have the staff or that's the problem. We had to get all these partners, right?
We're like the GM of the football team.
We are,
right?
We are because we don't have the staff or capacity.
Yeah.
without hiring more people. And I'm like, well, why would we do that? We would just partner with the experts already we have already in our county, because we're blessed with a lot of talent. So one, it's like recruiting, you recruit the best, and your outcome will more than likely be very productive.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, people are like, well, Joe, what are your staff doing? Well, it's like, we're not taking necessarily the taxpayers, the staff doing all this when we have the partners to do that and help us with it, because we don't have it. I'd have to hire 2 or 3 more people.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add about the Ottawa Conservation District? I know everything I've seen from annual reports to the Board of Commissioners to the various different things I've seen, it's been super impressive, and I think we're very fortunate to have you guys in our county. So thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, appreciate it. No, I mean, again, every conservation district is very different. I think we are very fortunate at Ottawa to have the range of programs that we have. We have a lot of agricultural type programs working with farmers on conservation practices. We also have a whole invasive species crew, that are out there identifying and treating invasive species, helping protect hemlock trees from hemlock woolly adelgid. So we have that team. We do, several fundraisers a year. So we have a tree sale and a plant sale coming up, which, that information you can see on our website.
Yep, which I will link to in the description below. So look down below if you're interested in learning more.
I will say, talking to all my colleagues around the state, again, I'll piggyback on what he said, that we're blessed to have Ottawa County Conservation District here because of what they do offer and the amount of expertise they have on their staff, and they're a phone call away, right? And right now we got them partnering with the Road Commission, probably on invasives. Got them partnering with the Parks Department on invasives, and also native grasses, native plants, right? So there's so many opportunities, and we look at those opportunities and put that in our playbook, because we want to be leading the state of Michigan, and right here in Ottawa County with water quality and water quantity, and we want to balance it with the continued growth. We just got to make sure we protect what we have with our natural resources, So it's all about a balance. And that's what we try to look at all the time, balancing.
Super cool. And it's nice to have a lot of voices to help maintain that balance, because if you're only hearing from a few voices, is it really balanced? So speaking of additional voices, we are going to cycle Ben out for Dan, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hey everybody, wanted to take a quick break to talk about an opportunity to make your voice heard on a couple of very important topics to help us improve our impact through two brief public opinion surveys that are both linked in the show notes. The first survey is from our Housing Commission, who want to hear from you about your experiences with housing in Ottawa County. The goal is to better understand the challenges and barriers facing our community to develop the most informed and effective plan possible, and make sure we're not missing the mark. This brief, anonymous survey should only take 10 minutes or so. The second survey is for our materials management plan. We're trying to make it easier for Ottawa County residents to recycle, reducing the amount of waste sent to our landfills each year to keep our county clean and healthy for generations to come. But we need your input. Take the 5-minute or less survey to help us understand recycling habits so we can work to streamline the process for you. Now, enough yapping, let's get back to the show, which I guess is just a different type of yapping. And just like that, we are back, and we have a new guest with us here. Joe, do you want to give him a little introduction?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for, again, having this segment. And
of course.
I'd like to introduce my one of my other partners here, Dan Callam. He's with the Outdoor Discovery Network out of Holland. That's where they're based out of, but they seem to be growing. A lot of people are getting to know who they are and what they are and why they do what they do. And again, but to help us be the best at what we do with water quality, water quantity, water preservation, water conservation. We teamed up with the Outdoor Discovery Network. And Dan, if you want to share a little bit about yourself and how you become a part of this. I know we've known each other for as long as I've been elected. I met Dan way back in probably 2011, 2012 when he started with Outdoor Discovery. And we've been great friends, and we've been a great partner to help our people of Ottawa County, I want to say, thrive at water quality.
Thanks, Joe. I think we started probably right around the same time you were elected in 2012. I started at Outdoor Discovery Center in 2012, and I think Ben started roughly around that same time, and our colleague Kelly Goward, I think, started the same month that I did. So, yeah, it's been a team that's been together for a little over a decade now, and we've been working on trying to improve the water quality as best we can. So my role at the ODC is the Greenway Manager, so I help oversee a lot of our projects that take place specifically along the Macatawa River, down in the Holland Zealand area, and that involves trying to make sure that we've got the best habitat that we have down there. We've got the best park space, ways for people to enjoy it, and make sure that we can try and have this environment be as natural and kind of as close to what it would have been 200 years ago as we can, while still having a great place for people to live and play.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I can't, I don't want to ignore the fact we have Kelly Goward. She used to be at the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council. She has now teamed up and works over at the Outdoor Discovery. And then Travis Williams, everybody, he's kind of the mastermind over there. And Travis, has been a great friend as well. And just working together, we partner on so many things. And we just, again, like I said earlier, try to put that team together to make it the best team in the state of Michigan. And I feel we have the experts in so many different areas. You got to surround yourself with great people, great knowledge, collect great data, and you just have to actually find what works,
and do great things.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
It
honestly is. Yeah, I love it. Dan, do you want to give us a little bit of background on what the ODC network is? It's the Outdoor Discovery Center network is, and how they sort of fit into the community here?
The ODC network, we kind of explain, as the operators of the Outdoor Discovery Center. So it started as a nature center back in 2000, and we've really grown since then, kind of exponentially. So kind of our two tenets as an organization is we want people to be able to have good, high-quality spaces outside where they can engage and play and appreciate. And so we've got to have high-quality spaces for people to be able to be educated in, and we also need to educate the people as to why these spaces are important, why things like clean water and good quality native habitats are important. And so we've got to, conserve to educate and educate to conserve. So those are kind of the two main tenets that we try and follow. So part of that, and I work with a team of about 10 people on the conservation end of things. And so while we've got a lot of expert educators and folks who run our daycares and preschools and work with school groups on a regular basis, we've also got a group a little behind the scenes that works on trying to improve our habitat and water quality. We own about 850 acres of property around the greater Holland, Zeeland, Hamilton area. And we work on actively conserving at least another 2,000 acres on top of that. So we really are trying to be on the ground and create spaces, and we work with folks like Joe's office, Ben's office, and down to our local townships and cities, trying to see how we can, work with them on things like their rec plan or ways that we can improve trail spaces, ways for folks to get out on the water easier. We really try and find ways to get people out and make sure they're doing so in high quality spaces.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Well, I think if you want to hit on something that started back in around 2013 was a plan called Project Clarity. And that's what got it all kicked off, and that's what got my partnership involved.
Which I think is a really cool name, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Project Clarity?
Project Clarity. And that thing, it's working, right? I mean, a lot of things that we do doesn't happen overnight, right? If you try to clean up something that's been contaminated or, it doesn't take 24 hours.
Sometimes it come in with a broom and clean it up.
Sweep it up, right? It's not immediate. Sometimes it takes time, but over time, in the last 13 years, the Project Clarity project is starting to show the data that it's improving from what it was, and awesome. There was a great team behind that to get that kicked off, and here we are, looking at another round of fundraising for it.
Yeah, and we'll definitely, like we did with Conservation District, we'll link your website in the description, and you can learn a little bit more about what they do and everything. Let's talk about this water quality monitoring initiative. I would love to hear more about the ODC Network's involvement in that and what we're actually doing here.
Yeah, so Joe was referencing Project Clarity and the work that we've been doing for well over a decade now. Basically, we've been trying to work with our area partners to try and get as much information on water quality as we can. Probably 20, 30 years ago, Lake Macatawa would be considered probably one of the most hypereutrophic lakes in the state, if not the region. So hypereutrophic basically means there's too much sediment and nutrients flowing into it, very murky, not very clear, not able to support a lot of aquatic life, really not great for human use either. So we've been working on putting in projects to improve the water quality, clean up the water that's going into the lake. We've really wanted to be able to track that. So we've worked closely with our partners at the Annis Water Resource Institute and at Hope College. They've really been able to help provide some additional data for us, as well as our staff and some of our team that's been able to go out and collect water. And this new monitoring initiative is really a great opportunity for us to really get a lot more finite detail on what's going on. It's been tough, I would say, to traditionally find money to do water quality monitoring.
Yeah.
A lot of grant programs don't support it. They want to see more like, oh, we want you to actually like build a wetland or like do something to actually...
Yeah, so something that you could share some nice pretty pictures of versus sharing some spreadsheets.
Yeah, what we've been able to do with this new partnership is really be able to get a much clearer picture of what's going on. So we now are actually able to have a buoy out in Lake Macatawa. So it's actually got two sondes on it, one about 3 feet below the surface and one about 15 feet below the surface. And those provide real-time data to us about every 10 minutes, and then we can basically look at that data and basically save it in a great big spreadsheet, and we can analyze things that are changing, you know, on a day-to-day or week-to-week, potentially even hour-to-hour basis if we need to. So before that, we had groups with Hope College going out and basically sampling once a month out on the edges of the lake, and we had the folks from Al Steinman's lab come down and do in-lake sampling 3 times a year. So that's been great, and we've got additional sonde equipment that are further upstream on the stream sites as well to be able to give us that kind of data and not just know what's going on in the lake, but what's going on in the bodies of water that are feeding into the lake.
Does this buoy have like a name or anything fun?
We don't really have a name for the buoy. We thought about, you know, do we put like Joe's picture on the front of it so people can see it as we're going by or anything? But no, it's just our buoy, and just kind of the Lake Macatawa Observatory is kind of what we've been calling it. So
if anybody has an idea for what we want to call this buoy, leave it below in the comments, because I think we should give it an official name of some kind.
That's a good crowdsource activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, one thing that has, you know, when we started talking about this water quality initiative is our partners. And I can't say enough about the Grand Valley University's Annis Water Institute, Al Steinman, and then like Dan mentioned, Hope College. And then their professors on water quality, and they get their students involved. And then before you know it, you know, I get questioned about Calvin University. You know, they want to get their people involved, their students. Can we do a project? Can we? And then we get the Career Line Tech Center. You know, those students have been involved with that program, because at some point there's going to be time where I won't be around, or Dan. You know, we start getting, as we age, we need that next generation to step up and take care of our water, because we want generations of water for everybody for years to come. And that's one of my priorities as, you know, as the elected official, is to make sure that we can have that. You know, I look at the big picture. I'm looking at 20, 30, 50 years from now. This monitoring program that we're doing has gotten a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are raising their eyebrows and they're going, wait a minute, what are they doing in Ottawa? And what are they going to do with that data? And, you know, and it's just to make it better is what it's going to do. The data will make it better, and it'll give us more informed decision making.
Right. When you bring your car into the mechanic, they say, hey, we're going to inspect it to see what's going on, and that costs money.
Yep.
And then you have to fix it. If you just brought your car into the shop and said, nope, it's the shocks. Like, you sure? You could be wrong. Right? You have to take the time to actually figure out what's going on so that you can make that informed decision.
Absolutely.
So I came up with that on the fly.
That was good.
Yeah, thank you.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Good job, Scott.
I hate taking my car to the mechanic. It's the worst thing ever. I feel like they take advantage of me.
Ottawa County has always been the leader we want to make sure that we strive to do it well.
Yeah.
You know,
We have the best podcast. We might as well have the best water quality.
absolutely, absolutely.
Talking about the next generation coming up through, I think probably one or two of the most excited people when I've told kind of our folks what we were planning on doing here were a couple of our educators. They're like, we really want to have our kids be able to use actual real world data sets and like be able
absolutely.
to engage with this. Like, it's one thing if it's just, set of numbers to work on for their math or science project.
Yeah.
But this is data that we got last month from Lake Macatawa, and then they can teach and engage with the kids about it. It's so much more of a rewarding and engaging experience for them.
Numbers are all about what you do with them.
This is all about community, what we do, why we do it. It's all about, again, Ottawa County and our community. But outdoor discovery is, you can go anywhere and talk about them to like the foundations, the Holland Zealand Community Foundation. They know who Outdoor Discovery is, or Ottawa County. So we're on the map, and Outdoor Discovery, the Conservation District, they're on the map, right?
Absolutely.
And we just want to make sure that people utilize, our department for what we do, and utilize our partners too when there's issues. And how can we help?
Yeah, I'd say head to outdoordiscovery.org for our calendar of events going on and all of our different programs and things we've got happening, both at our sites and off-site. We've got our Unplugged speaker series coming up this spring.
It's coming up. Yeah, that's kicking off. Well, the first one is before this episode airs, but then there's some more
Yep, speaker a
sessions
month
coming
after
up.
that. Yep, so more information about that. And then a little hard to think about right this minute, but we're going to have our drain cleanups and then our river cleanups happening later this spring. So happening
already.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. I
Absolutely.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us.
Links
for
down
having
below
us.
for anything that we've talked about here.
All right, thanks.
All right. Hey everyone, just want to take a real quick break to tell you about some of our upcoming Board of Commissioners meetings. These meetings are exceptionally important to how the county is run, which means how your tax dollars are used and how we deliver on our promise to provide top-notch services countywide. Our next Board of Commissioners meeting will be on Tuesday, January 27th at 6:30 p.m. And our next standing committee meetings, that's the Planning and Policy Committee, the Finance and Administration Committee, and sometimes the Appointment and Alignment Committee, will be held on Tuesday, February 10th, starting at 9 a.m. The meetings are literally right here at the Fillmore Administration Building in West Olive in the boardroom, which is right inside the main upper floor entrance. If you aren't able to attend the meeting, watch the live stream on our YouTube channel. If you can't do that, check out Meeting Minutes, a video series where I conveniently recap the board meeting in 3 minutes or less. If you can't do that, hey, I don't know what else I can do for you. Anyway, back to the show. Alrighty folks, I hope you enjoyed that segment as much as I did. Huge thanks to our Water Resources Commissioner, Joe Bush, as well as our friend from the Ottawa Conservation District, Ben, and our friend from the ODC Network, Dan, for coming to talk about the importance of water quality and most importantly, what Ottawa County is doing to improve it and keep it improved for generations to come. Because, believe it or not, it's important to have good quality water. Well, that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As we continue Season 2 of Ottawa Out Loud, look out for some interesting and engaging and informative interviews to come. Looking forward to continuing this on and helping you understand more about your local government. Make sure to give us a like if you enjoyed this particular program. Subscribe to our channel if it's something you'd like to see more of. Thanks so much for watching, as always. And remember, knowledge is power, and local government works best when you're a part of it. We'll see you next time.